broadcasting live from California. Get ready for an hour of pure, unapologetic conservative talk radio. This is The Wise Conservative Show. Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of The Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, in this past week, the Obama administration has gone full force against our great friend and ally that we have in Israel. Throughout these past 8 years, we have seen this administration ignore the requests from Israel, ignore helping Israel, and all around just insulting our friendship. For some reason, the Obama administration has taken it upon itself to try to throw away the ties between us and Israel. And I'm sure you've all heard about the UN resolution condemning the Israeli settlements that Obama told his diplomat to the UN just to abstain from. And of course, claims are coming out that they actually worked to try and get that resolution to pass. That's, of course, claims coming out of not only Israel, but many different countries, including Egypt. So it seems like there is actually a lot of evidence, and I'll go into that in a little bit. But I actually have some clips for you guys from the couple of speeches today. Of course, John Kerry gave a speech today talking about not only the UN resolution, but also Israel in general. So I have about 2.5 minutes of John Kerry talking. And then after that, I have Netanyahu's response to John Kerry's speech. So take a listen. This is John Kerry.
Throughout his administration, President Obama has been deeply committed to Israel and its security.
No, he hasn't.
And that commitment has guided his pursuit of peace in the Middle East. The two-state solution is the only way to achieve a just and lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians. It is the only way to ensure Israel's future as a Jewish and democratic state, living in peace and security with its neighbors. It is the only way to ensure a future of freedom and dignity for the Palestinian people, and it is an important way of advancing United States interests in the region. We could not, in good conscience, stand in the way of a resolution at the United Nations that makes clear that both sides must act now to preserve the possibility of peace.
Okay, first, I'm going to play the next part of the John Kerry speech in a little bit. But first off, in a Pew Research poll done in 2015, so last year, it showed that 70% of Palestinians were in favor of taking over Israeli land. 70%. Now, that doesn't sound like a two-state system or solution to me. 70% of this country that is ran by a terrorist organization want to take over our ally of Israel. But we need to work together with them, according to the Obama administration. All right, take a listen to this next part. This is John Kerry on why they abstained from the vote.
Regrettably, some seem to believe that the U.S. friendship means the U.S. must accept any policy, regardless of our own interests, our own positions, our own words, our own principles, even after urging again and again that the policy must change. Friends need to tell each other the hard truths, and friendships require mutual respect. Israel's permanent representative to the United Nations, who does not support a two-state solution, said after the vote last week, quote, "It was to be expected that Israel's greatest ally would act in accordance with the values that we share and veto this resolution. I am compelled to respond today that the United States did, in fact, vote in accordance with our values, just as previous U.S. administrations have done at the Security Council before us. They fail to recognize that this friend, the United States of America, that has done more to support Israel than any other country, this friend that has blocked countless efforts to delegitimize Israel, cannot be true to our own values or even the stated democratic values of Israel. And we cannot properly defend and protect Israel if we allow a viable two-state solution to be destroyed before our own eyes.
Since when was it our values to support Palestine, to support Hamas? When was that our values? Because before Obama, that wasn't our values. He can't just change the values of an entire country because he doesn't like Israel. You know, Israel is our greatest ally, and the Israeli ambassadors said it perfectly. They expected us to vote no on this. We're a part of the Security Council that would have canceled the entire resolution. They expected us to help them out when help was needed. But President Obama once again turned his back on Israel. Instead, opened up the door for the terrorist organization of Hamas, which controls Palestine, to take more ground, to kill more innocent people, to gain more leverage against Israel. There is no reason for President Obama and his administration to do this. There's no reason for them to turn their back on Israel. How is Israel a threat within the Middle East when they're completely surrounded by Arab nations? How are they the threat in the Middle East? They're not the ones who strike first in any of these conflicts. Everything they do is out of defense. And then you get those people. They say, oh, well, less Israelis have died in this conflict than Palestinians. Well, yeah, that's because Palestine and Hamas, they're using children as shields. And Israel has a great defense network set up because we help them, the Iron Dome. Because we have set up great defense within Israel. Just because they have better defense doesn't mean that they are in the wrong here. And that's about as far as the logic goes with their arguments. There is no reason why the United States should support Palestine in this conflict. There's no reason why we should have abstained from that vote. And there is no reason why President Obama has to continue to deny the fact that he's against Israel. It's easy to tell that he does not appreciate our friendship with Israel. It's easy to tell that he has turned his back on Israel time after time. This administration has been a failure in so many different ways. Not only domestically, but even internationally with all of our relationships. He has strained so many different relationships with people that we used to be strong allies with. He has continued the Cold War sentiments with Russia for no reason. I mean, this administration has done nothing good. And now in his lame duck period, he's continuing to do no good, to hurt our relations with our greatest ally, to strain the relations with Russia even more. President Obama will go down in history as the worst president ever. Because he is trying to completely and fundamentally change this nation. He is trying to change it to be a socialistic nation where everyone gets everything for free, where we don't support our allies. I mean, this nation that he wants us to be is not the United States. We have always and will always be an ally of Israel. And that's just a fact. But sadly, Obama and his administration try to change that. And President-elect Donald Trump is having nothing with it. He took to Twitter, as he always does, to blast Obama over these roadblocks that he's setting up. In a series of 3 tweets, he attacked the outgoing president. Quote, "Doing my best to disregard the many inflammatory President O statements and roadblocks. Thought it was going to be a smooth transition. Not. We cannot continue to let Israel be treated with such total disdain and disrespect. The They used to have a great friend in the U.S., but not anymore. The beginning of the end was that horrible Iran deal, and now this UN deal. Stay strong, Israel. January 20th is fast approaching. Now, Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, he has outspokenly and many times given his support for Donald Trump and said that he's very glad that Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. Just actually today, he retweeted all of these one of these tweets actually, the last one from Donald Trump, and gave more support for the president-elect. Now, he also today gave a response to John Kerry and to the abstaining from the UN resolution. So I have a 3-minute clip of that speech here for you guys. Take a listen.
Partnership that has endured differences of opinions between our two governments over the best way to advance peace and stability in the Middle East. I have no doubt that our alliance will endure the profound disagreement we have had with the Obama administration and will become even stronger in the future. But now I must express my deep disappointment with the speech today of John Kerry. A speech that was almost as unbalanced as the anti-Israel resolution passed at the UN last week. In a speech ostensibly about peace between Israelis and Palestinians, Secretary Kerry paid lip service to the unremitting campaign of terrorism that has been waged by the Palestinians against the Jewish state for nearly a century. What he did was to spend most of his speech blaming Israel for the lack of peace by passionately condemning a policy of enabling Jews to live in their historic homeland and in their eternal capital, Jerusalem. Hundreds of suicide bombings, thousands, tens of thousands of rockets, millions of Israelis in bomb shelters are not throwaway lines in a speech. They are the realities that the people of Israel had to endure because of mistaken policies. Policies that at the time won the thunderous applause of the world. I don't seek applause. I seek the security and peace and prosperity and the future of the Jewish state. The Jewish people have sought their place under the sun for 3,000 years. And we're not about to be swayed by mistaken policies that have caused great, great damage. Israelis do not need to be lectured about the importance of peace by foreign leaders. Israel's hand has been extended in peace to its neighbors from day one, from its very first day. We've prayed for peace. We've worked for it every day since then. And thousands of Israeli families have made the ultimate sacrifice to defend our country and advance peace. My family has been one of them. There are many, many others. No one wants peace more than the people of Israel. Israel remains committed to resolving the outstanding differences between us and the Palestinians through direct negotiations. This is how we made peace with Egypt. This is how we made peace with Jordan. It's the only way we'll make peace with the Palestinians.
All right, so that was obviously a great speech responding to John Kerry. He called out John Kerry for what he actually did. He just gave a speech that was obviously biased against Israel, just like the UN resolution, which was attacking Israel for something that they're not in the wrong with. And, of course, the claims that I talked of earlier, of the White House working with different countries to pass this UN resolution. Well, of course, the White House is denying these claims, but if you actually look on the State Department's website, it shows that John Kerry, was actually scheduled for a meeting with a Palestinian official at the State Department on December 12th, which is when all of these claims are saying that he met with Palestine. So the White House is denying something that obviously happened. I mean, it's on their own website. The State Department's website shows that this meeting happened. But we've learned over the past 8 years that the Democrats and that this current administration are not above lying to the American people. And in this case, not above lying to us or even Israel. This administration is trying to hide the fact that they did in fact work together with Palestine and with many other nations to pass this hurtful resolution towards our ally. It's just sad. All of the different things that President Obama has been doing this past month, basically, to try and undermine everything that Trump stands for. I mean, from regulating offshore oil drilling to this. President Obama has taken it upon himself to pass executive order or make strange deals that undermine what President-elect Trump has said he is going to do, in some weird attempt to try to save his legacy, because that's what he's all about, legacy. Well, his legacy currently is being a failure and ruining everything that America stands for, ruining our relationship with Israel. I cannot wait, and I am sure that Israel cannot wait for President-elect Trump to finally be president, for him to become president on January 20th. We have less than a month till that day, folks, and it is going to be an amazing day, a day where we finally take back the White House, where we finally regain all of these values that America truly stands for. Not these values that Obama is trying to instill within our nation. Not these values that have failed him for 8 straight years. Not the values that led the fall of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is at its lowest since the 40s. The Democratic Party has lost the majority in both the House and the Senate during President Obama's term because he was such a bad president. I mean, let's actually look at what he got done over these past 8 years. Well, if we look at anything good that happened, there's a total 0. Things that he did get passed: illegal and unconstitutional executive orders on immigration. Obamacare, which we all know was a complete failure. Common Core, which is just as much of a complete failure. Reform after reform that have failed. The economy is still not doing very good. In fact, it's growing at its slowest in a century. President Obama has been completely and horribly suited for this presidency. He hasn't done anything that he said he would do first off. All this hope that he promised never came. This progress that he promised never came. And so now in the final days of his presidency, he is scrambling to finally get something done. He's scrambling to say that he actually did something in 8 years. Because apparently the last 7 years weren't enough. He has to do everything in the last month of his presidency. And of course, these are all things that the Obama administration is claiming that Trump won't be able to undo. All these new executive orders. Well, that's just completely false. All of these executive orders that Obama has passed will be torn up by Donald Trump. And they cannot stay after that. There's nowhere where Obama can just write a law and it's there for forever. That's not how it works. And so when Donald Trump does take office, he is going to rip up Common Core. He's going to rip up Obamacare. He is going to take care of all these issues that Obama has created within our nation. Because if he doesn't, our nation will continue to decline, just like it has been for the past 8 years. And the Democrats can't blame that on Bush anymore. This is all Obama's fault. All right, I'm going to take a first commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show.
In that class, is why America is the worst country in the history of the world.
Are you sick of your professors telling you lies?
Now remember, children, if you're white, it means you're privileged. Don't ever forget that.
Do you sit through class convinced that your head is going to explode at any given moment? Sounds like you could use some backup. Visit youthrevolt.org for exclusive content produced by young conservatives for young conservatives. Youth Revolt features a dedicated team of radio hosts, political columnists, and video bloggers, all of whom are 100% committed to taking back the future of this country. So what are you waiting for? Tune out your Marxist professor and visit youthrevolt.org now.
8 years with Obama, and now no one knows what bathroom to use.
The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
Tune in to Millennials Rising, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday nights, for a conservative outlook on pop culture and American politics. Together we can reinstitute values back into our nation's young people and help create an alternative path away from the mainstream liberal agenda. Tune in to Millennials Rising, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday nights, only on Youth Revolt. The idea behind Youth Revolt is to let them, these liberal professors, let them know that we are here and we're ready to fight.
Youth Revolt. Speak without fear.
Hey, little boy, you want some free college?
Bernie Sanders, that creepy uncle your mom warned you about. The Wise Conservative Show. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Only on Youth Revolt.
Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. Once again, I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, keeping the topic on that actual UN resolution that passed, because it was very significant. Well, now Congress is moving to cut U.S. funding to the UN, of course in wake of that anti-Israel vote that just happened. Of course, Republicans control Congress, and they saw this as an attack on our ally, which of course it was. And so now they're moving to actually put this resolution into place to cut all funding, which is a great idea. Another action that they're looking at taking, this new Congress, would be to include expelling Palestinian diplomats from U.S. soil, and also scaling back ties with foreign nations that voted in favor of that UN resolution last week. So our Republican Congress that's coming into office on January 3rd, they are already coming up with plans, because it's mostly the same people. They're already coming up with plans to pass all of these pro-Israel bills, which will be amazing. We finally will have all three, the House, the Senate, and the presidency, so we actually can get these bills passed. Because we all know that if Obama was still president, he would veto these. Because why would we help our ally? But we all know that Donald Trump is a strong supporter of Israel. These bills are going to pass and they're going to be signed. And we are once again going to be strong allies of Israel. You know, I hit Obama hard in that last segment on these past 8 years, on all of his failures. And well, now I have more proof of it. The Cato Institution does a index of the freedom ratings of each country. Now, over the past 8 years, this is from 2008 to 2016, we have drastically fallen in those rankings. When Obama took office in 2008, we were ranked number 16 in the world, but now we are ranked 23. Now, this, of course, is because of all of the policies that Obama has put into place, regulating trade, regulating healthcare, all of these different things that he has regulated, all of those restrictions he's put on the American people. I mean, we just fell that many places, 7 places, because of these hurtful policies of President Obama. Our economic freedom is sliding, and our personal freedoms are sliding. And so if nothing changes, we're just going to keep sliding down this scale. We're going to become an authoritarian country that has no freedoms. But if we finally turn this around, if we finally open up trade, open up the lines between the states for healthcare, allow the free market to actually work, then we're going to have a better place on that scale. We're going to actually be one of the freest nations in the world once again. And that's what President Trump is aiming to do, and that's what the Republican Party aims to do in these next few years. Whether it be 4 or 8 years, we're going to get so much done that is going to help us with our freedoms and liberties. I am definitely excited for these next 4 or 8 years. But there are few people in the Republican Party still that just aren't getting the picture. Lindsey Graham and John McCain are still urging for Russian sanctions after the election hacks, the alleged election hacks. They both went on an interview together this morning, and they both called for sanctioning Russia economically for a variety of different reasons. Arizona Senator John McCain told Fox News that he wants to increase sanctions on Russia in addition to permanently stationing U.S. soldiers in the bordering Balkan countries and further helping the Ukraine against Russian aggression. And this is to ensure that Putin knows that the kind of action that he has taken will not be tolerated in the future. Graham outlined a more detailed and specific plan. He said that Obama shouldn't do anything, but when Donald Trump takes office, that we definitely have to put more sanctions on the energy sector and on Putin and his inner circle to control their money and travel. A report came out from the BBC earlier this year, and it showed that sanctions only work 33% of the time. And that is absolutely true. We actually already have sanctions on Russia. We have many sanctions on Russia right now. And it's not doing anything. Russia is still a main power. And quite honestly, why should we send troops onto the border of Russia? Why is that our conflict to get in? Why is it our business and what Russia does on their border? Why is it our business on what Russia does halfway around the world? It's not. And the fact is, we shouldn't be continuing this sentiment that is lasting from the Cold War. I'd rather be allies with Russia now than enemies with them and lead to a possible World War III. Russia is very powerful, but I'd rather be allies with a country that's that powerful. Why would we want to increase the tensions between our countries? But John McCain obviously doesn't support the same values as most Republicans and most of the country. That's why he lost his presidential bid. Lindsey Graham was kicked out of the presidential race way early on because he too has values that do not align with the majority of Americans. And especially with the majority of Republicans. It is the Democrats that are recently trying to increase the tensions between us and Russia. Obama is the one that originally introduced the idea of more sanctions on Russia just this past week. Obama also came out this past week, his administration, saying that they wanted a diplomatic censor and a, quote, covert action that will probably involve cyber operations against Russia. They also said that their administration is working on a measure that Trump would not be able to undo. Yep, there it is again, folks. A measure that Trump wouldn't be able to undo. You see, Lindsey Graham and John McCain are now aligning themselves with the Obama administration to put sanctions and more censorship on Russia. To put more legislation in place that the Dems think Trump won't be able to undo. You know, this is exactly why both of them never stood a chance in actually winning the election. John McCain was beaten in a landslide. Lindsey Graham never even made it very far into the primaries. This is because both of them are out of touch with the current Republican Party and with the current America. It's time to get over the Cold War. It's time to actually open up negotiations with Russia. Open up diplomacy with Russia. Because, honestly, peace should be our highest aspiration. And that's a quote from Ronald Reagan, who was president during the Cold War. The purpose of all of those sanctions was not to punish Russia, but rather to send a message, and the sanctions didn't work. Putting on more sanctions is just going to anger them. It's just going to put more tensions that don't need to be there. All it's going to do is increase the tensions, not only on the Ukraine-Russia border, but also in the Middle East, because we're both the biggest key players within the Middle East, within the entire world. It'll just push them closer to China and farther away from us. And that's what's happening because of the Obama administration currently. Russia and China are cozying up more and more, and we're being left out, and these two superpowers, well, they're both possibly could become superpowers. They're cozying up, they're getting more weapons, a better military, and bigger hatred for America. The Democrats are putting our nation and, honestly, the world at risk here by trying to continue these Cold War sentiments. These sentiments that should have been gone for a long time now. And they have been until the Democrats recently re-brought them up. And I don't know what they feel like they're going to accomplish with this, because they have no proof that the Russians actually hacked the election. They have no proof that the Russians hacked the DNC. And they have no proof that the Russians hacked into Podesta's emails. All of these leaks and alleged hacks have no proof that Russia did it. And yet the Democrats and President Obama feel that they're going to take that upon themselves to punish Russia for something that they probably didn't do. And you know what? Let's take a moment to even think about what if Russia even did this. What if they even leaked those emails? What if they leaked the DNC emails and the Podesta emails? Is it bad that a foreign nation hacked into our government? Yes. First off, they should be looking at what's actually in the emails. There was proof inside those emails of the DNC rigging the primary election. There's proof within those emails of all kinds of dirty and corrupt work going on within Hillary Clinton's campaign and her Secretary of State administration. There was proof of all kinds of corruption. It doesn't matter who leaked it, it matters what's inside of it. But the Democrats think, oh, because there's a possibility that Russia leaked it, we should ignore it. And by the way, folks, I've said this on here many times before, and I'm going to say it again. WikiLeaks has already announced that Russia wasn't their source for the emails. So that's that option off the table. There's no proof of the election actually being hacked. When they provide proof for it, I'll finally believe it. But there has not been 1 ounce of fact for it. No 1 ounce of proof of all of this happening. Instead, they're just making these claims that it happened, and that's it. The end. They're not going to do any more investigating. They're not going to look into it further. They just say it happened, so apparently it happened. And that's how they've operated these past 8 years. That's how they're operating up until January 20th. All right, I'm going to take one last commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show.
Hi, everybody. This week, I want to make sure that you're aware of a group of young people that are out to reverse my fundamental transformation of America. This organization is called Youth Revolt. And before I go any further, I must urge folks not to visit youthrevolt.org. Now, Michelle and I, we're both gravely concerned that if this group succeeds, our children may not grow up to see the Marxist country that we will hopefully one day become. So I repeat, do not visit youthrevolt.org. And remember, I've got a pen, and I've got a phone, and I will use them if I have to. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
I don't feel no ways tired. You know? Don't let anybody tell you that, it's corporations and businesses that create jobs.
Hillary Clinton, just another political clown. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
And that, class, is why America is the worst country in the history of the world.
Are you sick of your professors telling you lies?
Now remember, children, if you're white, it means you're privileged. Don't ever forget that.
Do you sit through class convinced that your head is going to explode at any given moment? Sounds like you could use some backup. Visit youthrevolt.org for exclusive content produced by young conservatives for young conservatives. Youth Revolt features a dedicated team of radio hosts, political columnists, and video bloggers, all of whom are 100% committed to taking back the future of this country. So what are you waiting for? Tune out your Marxist professor and visit youthrevolt.org now.
Hey, little boy, you want some free college?
Bernie Sanders, that creepy uncle your mom warned you about. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, we're finally going to kind of get off track from the UN here. Talked a lot about it, gave my opinion on it. Pretty sure you know how I feel about it at this point. Now, in more transition news, Donald Trump just announced that 8,000 more jobs are going to be kept for American workers. Just today, he announced the addition of roughly 8,000 new jobs, including 5,000 from Sprint, from, quote, all around the world. Here's another quote from him. They're coming back to the United States, which is a nice change. He obviously takes office on January 20th, and he also said that the other 3,000 jobs that will be kept because of his presidency that's going to happen are from a new company called OneWeb. Now, we all know that he was elected in part due to his promise of bringing jobs back to America. His entire campaign was focused on America first, and it was a great campaign. He had a message that really resonated with the voters. And, well, of course, a big part of it was bringing jobs back to America. And we've already seen him do this time after time since he became President-elect Trump. Of course, last month he announced that Carrier is keeping about 1,000 jobs in Indiana. And that's, of course, after they told him that they have to move to Mexico due to restrictions and costs. He's obviously looking at all of these different situations, negotiating with them, and altogether being the kind of man that he said he would be. He said he would bring jobs back to America, and he has already succeeded on that before he even took office. He doesn't take office till January 20th next year, and he's already gotten 9,000 jobs to stay in America. That's far better than anything that President Obama has done over these past 8 years. Instead, Obama drove those companies out of America with his heavy regulations and restrictions. Well, Trump's bringing them back before he even takes office. That is showing dedication. That is showing that he truly cares about his message, about what he plans to do in his presidency. He has already put together a cabinet way quicker than the majority of presidents in our history. Donald Trump has already worked together with deals to keep jobs in America, and he's constantly working day and night to keep more jobs here, to negotiate more, to work things out that he will have to do when he's president. Now, in this deal, Trump said that he had the help negotiating with this with the chief executive for SoftBank of Japan, which is the parent company of Sprint. So he already had a lot of leverage in this, but it still shows the message that he really is sticking to, of bringing those jobs back, of keeping American spirits high by giving them these jobs. Now we just have to see if he truly revitalizes coal country like he said he would, if he does in fact build that wall on the southern border, which I'm sure he will, because that was a very passionate topic, just like bringing jobs back to America. And that's something that you don't really see with President Obama. You don't ever see him being passionate about helping America. I don't think I've ever once seen him passionate about that. Which is strange coming from the President of America. But all the time, you look at past presidents, you look at George W. Bush, you look at Ronald Reagan, JFK, you look at them and they're always passionate about what they're doing. They're always passionate about this country. The only thing Obama is passionate about is his legacy and completely deconstructing everything that our country once stood for. And it's sad that we elected him twice. And I am glad that Donald Trump is passionate about America, passionate about these jobs, passionate about our freedoms and our liberties. Because that is what every great president has, that passion. He has the capability to be another Ronald Reagan. Hopefully he doesn't blow it. But he definitely has the capability to do so. Now, switching gears a little bit to a story I got off of CNN. Now, we all know CNN is extremely biased and oftentimes just wrong. Well, they put out this article talking about the day after Election Day, so November 9th. There was this video that went viral from a middle school with the students chanting, "Build that wall." And apparently, those chants were racist, according to this CNN article. Now, this was at Royal Oak Middle School outside of Detroit. And in this video, you can hear 7th grade students shouting, "Build a wall," obviously in support of Donald Trump. And the person who shot this video, here's a quotation from her. "I was so scared." So these are 12-year-olds here, and because they're Hispanic, they're saying that this was racist towards them. Here's another quotation. "Then you hear what they're saying, and then they're beating their hands against the tables. It got louder and louder. Build a wall. You look around and half the cafeteria is doing it." Wow. So she was afraid, so she went and ran to the bathroom and hid and started crying because students were chanting, "Build a wall." Her friend recorded it on the cell phone and then sent the video to her mom via text and said this, "Build a wall," with crying emojis. "Mom, they were chanting it." And I have to read it in that voice because this is all so overly dramatic. They were chanting a slogan for Donald Trump's campaign, and they're trying to say that this was racist and scary. And then they go on to say that this wasn't the first time that they were racially attacked at this school, that because it's mostly white, that every day is a struggle in this school for Hispanic students. So, more CNN just lying or making stuff up or over-exaggerating. And again, these were students celebrating the win of Donald Trump, chanting "Build a wall." And all of the parents of the students that were seen in the video, that they could make out in the video chanting, were called by the school and told to discipline their children because of it. Because they chanted "Build a wall" the day after the election. Because this one student who happens to be Hispanic thinks it was an attack at her. And, that's because of all of the lies in the liberal media. They all said that, Donald Trump's sentiment is anti-Hispanic. When in fact, he got more Hispanic and black voters than any other Republican presidential nominee. Donald Trump's message was not anti-Hispanic, but rather anti-illegal immigrant. Build a wall never even says any race in it. All it's talking about is securing our border. And last time I checked, securing our border is not racist. Last time I checked, keeping our nation safe is not racist. But the liberal media and apparently these snowflakes, they blew it out of proportion. They think that building a wall is now racist, it's offensive, it's hurtful. I mean, this kid said that she was physically hurt because of it. Physically hurt because students were chanting "Build a wall." This is the society that we now live in, sadly. We now live in a society where anything you say can be deemed racist or offensive if someone disagrees with it. Your opinion can be deemed racist just because someone else disagrees with it. There's no logic or facts behind their claims that it's racist. They just say it is. And it's happened time after time, whether it's in this middle school, high schools, colleges, just out in the world. All of these snowflakes are so offended by everything. They're not going to get they're not going to be able to survive within life if they get so offended and so scared so easily. They have this sense of entitlement to everything that isn't going to work out in life. These snowflakes are going to have a hard time when they realize that not everything is rainbows and unicorns. That chanting "build a wall" isn't actually racist. And when they realize that CNN actually had many false stories when reporting on Donald Trump. And it's been proven through those email leaks that I spoke of earlier. The left in this nation is becoming progressively more offended by everything. I mean, it seems like every other week they're getting more and more offended over the slightest comment. You just say, you merely say you're Republican to one of these people, and they freak out, they start crying, they think that you just insulted their family. They think that you just were calling them some racist slur. And that's what the Democrats have become. That's what the left has become. And that's exactly why they lost this election. That's exactly why over the past 8 years they have declined and kept declining. This is the beginning of the end for the Democratic Party, if they do not change. Because they're continuing down the path that the majority of Americans do not agree with. The majority of Americans don't feel like everything that Donald Trump says is offensive. The majority of Americans don't start crying because someone chants "build a wall." But these vocal minority, these snowflakes, feel that everyone has to think the same way as them, that everyone has to be exactly like them, that everyone has to conform to be them. These snowflakes are what is wrong with the progressive movement. And they're just getting louder and louder, and honestly, their base is growing, sadly. Because these people just get offended at everything. There's no reason for this. No reason whatsoever. No reason why this story should be so overdramatic about this incident. There's no reason why this kid should have cried over these words. And there's no reason why those kids should have been disciplined because of chanting "build a wall." But it's just the liberals trying to take over our country day by day. It's the liberals trying to do what they do best. Regulate and tell people what to do. That's just what they always do, folks. All right, that's all for today's episode of The Wise Conservative Show. I have been your host, Connor Wise. You can find me at youthrevolt.org, Spreaker.com/TheWiseConservative, Instagram at @the_wise_conservative. Search up Youth Revolt at Facebook. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in, and as always, God bless.